our demonstration, I would like first to make a short discussion about these objects and classes. So what is this objects all about? Objects are used to design and build application. And since we are using a C++ and write a program in an OOP approach, so we need first to learn of what is this object all about. So object, as I've said, this is used to design and build application. So it contains a particular properties or data, and methods are what we call a behavior of our object to perform a particular task. For example, a person, we use a person as an object, and that person has a data, example, the age, the name, and the height. So these are your variables or your data members. On the other hand, this particular person is capable of talking, walking, and running. So this particular behavior will be considered as your methods or your functions. Okay, while the class is a blueprint or a constructor for you to create a particular object that compose of a data members or your variables and the member functions. Okay, that's the composition of your class. Okay, now let's demonstrate on how to write a code using an OOP approach. Our machine problem is we have an object, a student information object that contains the name of the student and the age of the student. And the behavior of our object is to display a particular information by allowing our user to input a particular information for the name and for the student. Okay, so let's start writing our basic object-oriented programming in C++. As you can see, I'm only using the Visual Basic 2010, but don't you worry because there's a little difference in using Visual Basic 2019 because you don't have this in your 2019 version. And for the main method, okay, it's simple in the new version, which is 2019. You only have the int or the integer main, then you don't have this one. Okay, so start with, so we need first a library that allows our program to input and output the student information. So we need this library. And since one of our data type is a name and we're using the string data type, so we need first to include the string library because our main method is treated as integer. Okay. Then we use the using namespace std for the cin and cout. Okay, as I have mentioned earlier, that we need first to have a class, a constructor, for us to create an object because we can create an object in this part. Okay, so let's first to create our class by typing the keyword class followed by the user-defined name of the class. So for this demonstration, I will be using student info. Okay, the opening curly braces and the closing curly braces followed by the semicolon. So which means the semicolon is the end of your class definition. Then what is inside the class? Inside the class is your data members. So what are these data members? These are your variables and your functions. So your member functions and your data members. So let's first declare our data members. So our data members is string, name is the variable, and for the age is integer, our data type. Then we will access this data member as private. Okay, what is this private? Private is a access class modifier. So actually there are three types of access modifier. We have the private, we have the public, and we have the protected. Okay, so while I'm doing the demonstration, I will discuss to you what is the use of private. So since I'm using private, this data members can only access in this class. Okay, so you can access this here in the main method because it can only be accessed inside the class because you are declaring it as private. Then we will also create our um, functions. So we declare that we access that as public. Void display. So then we will write here the behavior of our um, object to display a particular information. So for this function, we will allow our user to input the name of the student, and we will use get line here to allow spaces if you have spaces in the name, then in that get in that name, sorry. Then we have our age and in age. So we are done with, oh sorry, this is comma. We are done with our class. So our class contains the data members. Okay, you can access that only in this class because we declare as pub private. And for the this particular function, since this is public, so you can access that in our main method. Okay, since we have already created our class, so we are now going to create our object. So the name of our class is student info. Then followed by the name of our object info. So you can write any name of your object because that name will be used as access to your functions which is declared in your class display. Okay, then we have to include system post. Okay, sorry. Okay, so this is now your code here for this particular, okay, basic introductory of writing a program in an OOP. So let's run this program. Okay, 19. Okay, now let's modify this program. Oh, okay, let's make a comment here. We will make an initialization. We will call assuming that the name as okay, to initialize we have to initialize it here, not in the class. Okay, so we cannot initialize here like this one. We cannot do that here. We can, it's not acceptable. You can only initialize it here. But of course, you have to use your object name. The name is equal to Anna. Then info.h. Okay, this is initialization of your. Now, why this is red? Because this is private. So we have to change this into public. Okay, so that you can access that. Okay, now let's call in your name here. And the other one, H here. Okay, so again, you can initialize your um, variable here, but not in the class. Now, making sure that you have first to write this one, putting the data before you display the data. Okay, let's run first. Okay, so you have already our output. Then, okay, let's go back again. My question, if we're going to um, write it first here, now let's see what happened, because it's ironic that you have to write the display without getting first the data. Okay, let's see what happened if this is the style of your code. So what happened? That's the output. So, of course, the right thing to do is to have first the data before you display the data. Okay, so let's review again our code. So we changed that from private, we changed that to public. So let's erase this one because it's already treated as public. Okay, because when we write a private here, so what happened? You cannot access your function. Okay, what about protected? What about protected? So you cannot access. Okay, you can use protected if you have inheritance. So you can use either if you have private. So what happened? Still, you cannot access. So you have to make it public. But to change this into private, what happened? So you cannot access your name, age, as well as your display. Okay, so use public. Okay, so that's the reason why why we use public, private, and protected. Okay, so let's review our code here. That's our code. I hope you can see it. Okay, so we have the input stream, we have our class. The name of our class is student info. You can name it whatever you want. Okay, then but don't forget the access modifier. If we're using public, you can access the data members and your functions. Okay, then for private, you cannot access that. You can only access the private data members here. Okay, this is our class name and your object name. Your object name will be used to access a particular data members, and this one and this one. Okay, so I hope that you learned our basic demonstration of writing an object-oriented program. Uh, Continue to watch my video presentation because I'm going to transfer this outside the class. Okay, thank you for watching.